coming on live today. I'm a higher self channeler. What that means for those of us that may be asking, what is a higher self? Who's a higher self? Who has a higher self? What is this elusive higher self that we're all talking about? Now, for some of you that do chime into my channel, I am someone who goes all over the place. And why? My name here is God's plan simply because God, source, controls all of this. Everything that we are, everything that you are, everything that I am. So I do jump all over the place because I feel like I have a lot of downloads and a lot of information that comes to me. As someone who's attached to spirit at all moments in time, I see it in every sense of the word. Okay. So today what I'm going to be talking about is aspects. What is a higher self? What are higher self aspects? What does that mean for me and you? Now, the thing is that I'm going to start off saying, I know that me talking about this is going to have everyone who is still in a religious breakdown in their lives to maybe find a lot of fault with what I'm saying, because I keep finding people saying things like, oh, good and evil, good and evil, good and evil, good and evil. What I do want to say is let's change those words to duality. Light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. Aspects of oneself. There are many facets to what makes up oneself. And if someone can understand the idea of an oversoul, these makeups of an oversoul are the aspects that you possess. Now, I keep calling it a personality. You are a personality. So what that means is that there are facets to who you are intrinsically that never die. And the only way I could describe this is like, let's say, for example, if you've ever been around someone who is going through the sad disease of Alzheimer's, you'll notice that as someone's memories deplete, they themselves even may find different attributes to fall upon. They may not remember who all the faces are. However, who they are, in essence, even with all memories wiped, still exists. They find that the person may be still having some form of a comedic background or personality. They may find that the person is intelligent still. They may find that the person is very warm and loving. These qualities, these aspects are what make up a person regardless of what the memories imposed in a lifetime provide. You were this when you came in through utero. You started off in utero and you always had this personality. They are the traits within yourself that can never be washed away. Doesn't matter what the surroundings are, doesn't matter where you're placed in life. These parts of you never fade. So why I'm talking about aspects today is because I myself, like I've mentioned before, I'm a higher self channeler. And I want to preface this by saying, anyone can have access to a higher self. Everyone has access to their higher self, to their higher consciousness. This is not something that is not known, I hope. But if you are someone who feels like they tap into this higher self consciousness, know that there are also aspects to this higher self consciousness, aspects that are intrinsic to who you are. So what I have here behind the board here is my own rendition of what I've learned in my time so far dealing with higher selves. Okay? Because the thing is that as you climb in dimensional states of being, dimensional spaces, these this intrinsic intelligence that we have within us, okay, it's already in us. It didn't we now perceive more as we expand as beings. However, they are already in us. We are it, and it is we are the I am presence in form. We are having an experience. And at the same time, what's happening is that we're realizing different aspects of ourselves. It's not to say that the whole is what you presently perform every day. You are your whole self. We're just trying to recapture it. That's what we're trying to do. In a sense, we're like beings that have lost all our memories in the sense of all the other lives we've had, of all the other places that we come from, of all the other states of being we've been in. So when we don't remember, these imprints are already there. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. So I'll get into this quick, and I want to say hello to everyone. Nathaniel, hello, hi, how are you? Thank you for chiming in. I hope you guys can see the board. Now I'm going to use my own version because this is what I have figured out in my time. And the thing is too, if you're somebody who thinks that they talk to their higher self or is in communication or works with their higher self, it's just your higher intelligence, your higher knowledge. Hey Angelina, how's it going? Thanks for chiming in. Let me know if you guys also talk or believe that you're in communication with your higher self. Because for myself as a channeler, as someone who taps into this all the time, I know that I had to start somewhere. It wasn't like it just showed up and I didn't have to work towards it. All of this unlocking that we're all doing is piece by piece and nudge by nudge. Each intrinsical challenge and lesson we learn teaches us something about ourselves so that we can figure out and plug in which aspect of our higher selves we might be guided by at the time or that we're most in sync with at the time. Sometimes when you go through certain situations, you'll actually step into these aspects unknowingly because that's the type of like armor or that, like, let's say if you were to look at it as an aspect like a jacket that you need to put on at the time in order to traverse what you're going through. So realistically, there are different sides to all of us, and embracing all of this and knowing that each one of them has higher education and knowledge for you, regardless if they're on the darker or the light side, because we are dual beings. Please understand. All of the makeup of our world is made up of nature, and nature has this intrinsically in it as well. So to deny that we do not have these aspects on either side is a falsity, because we were made of the same makeup, the same dust that created Mother Gaia, etc. You know, we are part of that. And that's the thing. We have to know that both sides exist. Until we get to the 12th and above, we are in a dual natured place. And that is the truth. So what I'll say, I'm starting off with 3D. That's us here. We're actually trying to ascend right now as we're ascending to the 5-dimensional space. But we must understand that that's a density and another density that we have to shift through during this time of ascension. So what I would say is that in our dream time, as I mentioned in the last video, a lot of our time is spent between 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 4. We're clearing out different things within the 3rd and 4th dimensional space. Because if you haven't noticed, our 3D world here is not making much sense. So realistically, we are ascending as a consciousness because we are realizing that all of the structures that we're seeing do not make sense. And most of us that are light bearers and those that chime in, you're constantly trying to talk to others about this elevation. You're saying, hey, this doesn't make sense. Come elevate with me. That's all we're really doing. So what I would say is during your dream time, you're doing a lot of training in order to train your mind and in order for you to understand different aspects of yourself throughout the training. And you're being trained in real life, in every day. Okay? So all of us are in this training round. We're all trying to raise and to get to this 5-dimensional space, because that's the first slot, I would say, where manifestation becomes a lot easier. I would say emotional intelligence is accepted and understood in 5D and above. But here in this muddled area where we are, we're still trying to figure out love. We're still trying to figure out peace. We're still trying to figure out parts of emotion that seem easy but so hard to attain. So that's why we're having this shift so that we can move as a congruent collaboration to get our consciousness to a level where love and peace don't seem so unfamiliar. They are the norm and the standard. It's just a way of thinking and being that needs to kind of percolate all through our system in order for the system to change. And it is changing. That's why everything seems so wonky right now. Because as we're elevating, we're also opening up minds. And as we open up minds, we're like, oh, the system's not making sense. Pitfall, pitfall, pitfall. The light workers are bringing more illumination, showing more things that make no sense and that are lies. Pitfall, pitfall, pitfall. It's like we're watching Jenga come apart, in a sense. And that's what's supposed to happen. So when you get to 5D, these are my personal aspects that I have communicated with. And if you guys don't understand, please feel free to find me on www.uphighhealing. And I can definitely help you with the channeling of your higher self. And what I will say is that once you see what I can do, maybe you'll believe. But anyways, the 5D that I'm with, okay, most of us have up to 12, if not more. And the thing is that at 12, that's the first time I would say you get to a Davic, or what I would call an arraic, God I am status in your consciousness, because you're no longer dual. You're actually at a point, most whole and upward is one congruent understanding of both light and dark. It is non-duality. It is a different enlightened state of being. Totally. Most masters come from there. There's higher angelics. There's, let's say, demigods, etc. That range in that 12th dimensional space. They have already figured out the I am stags. Maybe some have done it in coming from a 3D position and growing, or have never come down. Okay, so what I'm saying is that to reach that type of consciousness does take mastery, but it's not to say that there are not others who have done it right here on this planet before. So if you have seen my other videos, I've been talking a lot about this middle ground thing. The reason why I'm saying that is because even within the aspects of ourself, of our higher selves, we're trying to merge these two sides the whole way up, so that by the time we get to our 12th dimensional way of consciousness that all of us have access to, we've realized how to deal with our aspects on either side. Now, please know, when I say aspects, if you could look at it as like your entire personality, the personality that sits in this 3D person right now, you have all of these aspects. You've used them. I've used them. I'm going to use my own version, and you may or may not believe me, but I'll show you with what I've learned of what parts of myself each one of these have, so that you get a better idea of what I mean. Okay? So, 5D, rep. Okay? What I've noticed with this particular dimensional self that I have is that they are somebody that teaches me the importance of hierarchy, sociality, what it means to take pride in hierarchy. Okay? Earning your stripes. That's what I've learned from my 5D self in that respect. My 6D, Syrian. Okay? What I've learned from him is craftiness, tactics, resourcefulness. That's the aspects that I acquire from that dimensional thinking. 7, angelic realm. A lot of us here, and I hope you guys understand, are walking earth angels. A lot of us. We're all here to do the work. There's light workers, there's star seeds, there's empaths, there's healers. There's so many different beings here right now, all doing all kinds of work. So to say that we're not all walking the same walk is a falsity too. We all have different aspects, even as individual bearers of light, that we bring forth, even as people, as persons. We all have different skills and different qualities. So even as separate persons, we are in different aspects too. But going back to this, my 7D angelic, my 8, I would say, is Anunnaki. What I learned from that is, from the angelic, is collaborativeness and unified militancy. Because the directive that an angelic will work in is so like direct in how they approach everything. So there's different things that I've learned with my angelic side. The 8D, I've learned from the Anunnaki understanding of blood ties, where a lot of our blood ties come from. And I would say the reason why that is so important is because the system tells us that we've only been on this planet for X amount of time. They've designed the history a certain way, even though our history dictates that we have had all of these different types of beings here at one point in time. And they've even erected civilizations in their time. Yet, our history tries to abolish this, which is so false because of how grand the universe is. Time is not, once you get to 12D up, time doesn't matter. It's eternal. Eternal. Eternal is for all time. So if we think that the several thousand to billion years that this planet has been talked about, to think that even that as a billion years, and I'm just using a facetious number right now, that is a drop in the bucket of eternity, even if you could put it that way. So to say that we couldn't learn anything from all of these different beings that have already been here would be another falsehood, because they've already tried to import their seed, their genetic coding, their implantation on all respects. And some of us realize, even as starseeds especially, that we have these connections. Some of us are dreaming about these places. Some of us are picking, like going to places on the planet and realizing, wow, why am I seeing times of the past? There's so much that we as individuals are picking up in our everyday to day to make us remember who and what we are and where we come from. But realistically, what we are all under the guise of is a divine order. So to even say that people are fearful of any of these types of dimensional beings and those that live in different realms, please know we're all under this one unified source, God, Allah, whichever way you want to put it. But the thing is that when you get to that stage and up, that's so above and beyond what we're currently facing here. So that's what I've learned from my 8. My 9, I have an avian Lyran crossbreed. That's the one I have there. I've learned resilience, fortitude, stealth, freedom from that particular side of myself. Okay, that is an aspect of myself. These are things that I apply in this dimensional space all the time. And 10, I have a dragon. And I've learned wisdom, fierceness, and loyalty from that particular side of my dynamic. 11, I have an Arcturian. And I've learned deep health, intelligence. What else can I say? Like bio understanding of how much our natural aspects of ourself are implanted in our everyday life. So I would say that even then, when I've reached my 12th D, I have, as a channeler, been able to, and most of us can, but it takes practice and it takes time to get to know all of these aspects of ourselves. They come out of us in every single way. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe about eternity, but if we could understand, even from a simple principle of our science that we have here, is energy cannot die. So realistically, to think that we do die, that's even just in simple form something that we have to process if we even look at it from a scientific standpoint. So eternity, especially as someone who channels, I have managed at times to actually touch upon it, but trust me, it's so vast and complex to even wrap a mind around, because we live in this construct. Unless we were to chime in and elevate to that consciousness, that's the only time we can touch it and it's tangible. But here we also have that connection, and that's why at certain points of our lives we can hit that sliver of understanding, capture it for that moment in time and say, oh, it's real, you know. But it doesn't stay with us all the time, because that's not where we're dimensionally at this moment in time, and we call it time. So it's like we're put in parameters even from day one. We're told that we're regimented. We're told that we have to follow time. But I'm saying after 12, it's like, if you could even think, I guess I go back to the dream. Maybe that's the easiest way I could describe it. Even in a dream state, you don't have a concept of time. So there are dimensional parts to this where time is not even a factor, because it's just, it is. It is, therefore I am. Yes, exactly. It's inconceivable. Well, I mean, we're sharing right now, so it's not truly inconceivable. There is a part of your soul that may understand what I'm saying right now. You know, it doesn't matter what this facade is, so to speak, as we commune and we figure out together how we can touch certain parts of ourselves, in the sense that if I say something that triggers a thought or an idea or an inspiration, or if I even make you upset, these are all things that are going to teach us. So I can't say that it's inconceivable, because that in itself is a possibility, because us just talking like this makes it more conceivable. That's all I'm saying. But yes, the reason why I would say in my 12D stance, I would say it's a more of a deliverance, a diplomacy, and it's a divine right at that point. Yeah, exactly. Yes, Kennard. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for coming on. But I did want to talk about this briefly. I've been on for some time, but what I will also say is that please know, for those of you that do get concerned about the crossover of dark and light and energy, as we try to stay in the middle, that is the best way, even because our state of being here in 3D is also teaching us how to merge these aspects all the time. Diplomacy, things like that you get from a 12D standpoint is also the same types of teachings that Yeshua, Buddha, etc. would be teaching us as well. And it was always to embrace both sides of oneself, to have that humility and understanding. So realistically, it doesn't, even though all of your aspects will be different, it not to fear, because they are you, right? There are times that you have used all of these aspects or needed some form of aspect of yourself to shine through more in a certain time. Even, let's say, for example, if you're in a business setting, you may call upon an aspect of yourself, and it's not like you're calling out, it's like your soul just lets a certain version of you step in. You're not that person when you go home after. It's like as if you slip on that jacket and that's how you become. And it's not like you're putting on a facade. It is a part of you. So realistically, embracing these parts does not necessarily mean dark or light at all points in time. So I just want to say that if you are traversing your higher selves or different dimensional ways of being, don't ever be fearful of it, because a higher self ultimately, and I know this is the next step that might make sense or not make sense, they're you. They're different dimensional avatars, let's say, that are you, that hold and have a stream of consciousness with you. So they're wanting you to succeed, if you think about it. Because the thing is that if you are all on a chain, right? And you're all like working on the same chain, you all want to develop so that you reach higher. All of us on our higher chain want to go higher, okay? There is no point in staying stagnant. Evolution is apparent in all dimensional fields. Timeless understanding. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we're here for, is to be timeless. But when it comes to these, you have to also know that each one of your aspects has a cross watcher as well. And I learned that through time, that even certain aspects that might want to get carried away at times because you're tapping into them more so over and over again, they start to get a little, I wouldn't say the word is cocky, but a little overbearing to some degree sometimes. And there are cross watchers, meaning another dimensional form of self of you will be overseeing certain parts of your negotiations. And that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was contracts, because you have to understand too is that you're contractually asking yourself to form and grow and form and grow and form and grow. And as you build this trust in your oversoul consciousness, you start to also expand in your own dimensional self. And also, why you want to keep raising is because manifestation gets easier as you rise, right? So if you're constantly working in a 7D headspace all the time, or I would say the most of us could really work with at any given time would be up to like 9. Like 9 to 12 is a little more advanced, and to say that those aspects don't step in here and there is not to say that they don't, but you're usually working with 9 down. And that's if you're willing to work through everything. And a lot of it has to do with shadow work, unfortunately, even though everyone's always saying, like, oh, no, not the shadow. The shadow teaches us a lot about all of our aspects. Some of the tests we get in our day to day is one of these aspects trying to test you so that you can grow and build in the aspect itself. If you could believe that and understand how that works, sometimes you'll be like, why do I keep getting the same situation over and over again in my life? It's because you're trying to be taught how to overcome it. And why? You may be needing to tap into a certain aspect that you might be fearful of or might be seeing as a darker side of yourself. But that's the thing. If you're scared of a darker part of yourself, that means you're scared of some part of you. And if you can't embrace you, you can't trust you, that's not a good place to be. So realistically, you have to inch to understand all parts of yourself so that you know how you can utilize the most amazing version that you had innately already in you, that we're all trying to unlock as we go through this ascension. So that's basically what I wanted to share, because a lot of people think that our dimensional selves aren't, and the thing is too, it doesn't have to just be galactic, okay? There's a lot of humanoid beings from different time spaces, and there's different versions of you existing in different paradigm or dimensional spaces too, even in the same space. Like, I don't like to say this multi-dimensional thinking, because that's not exactly what happens. Because realistically, as timelines collapse, as we go through all of collective decisioning, we can understand that there are versions of us. Every time we made specific choices in our lives, that split happens all the time, and that becomes and creates different timelines for ourselves. And if I'm losing you guys, maybe you guys should look up what timelines are. Maybe you guys, and if you need to look up anything I'm saying, please do, because it's all there online. You can see what I'm saying. I mean, maybe not anyone's really talking about it this way, but I'm just saying in terms of the names of the different, groupings I've mentioned, they're all there for the taking and understanding. But the reason why I came on today was because I've noticed that a lot of people are like, oh, this good and evil, good and evil, good and evil thing. And the thing is too, it's like in the world that we're living in and partaking in, as it starts to fall apart, as it starts to get disheveled, as it already is getting disheveled, if we don't understand that way of being, we will never know how to conquer it. So in some respects, you have to always learn from your enemy too. You can't just shy away and run away. You have to stare it in the face and say, what can I gain out of this? What can I learn from these situations that I don't repeat them in the future? So at the same time, it's like if you show fear in the name of that, let's say, other side of yourself, or other side of the conflict, or the other side of anything that is horrifying on this planet, we won't learn. We have to look at it in the face and say, this is how we change. So to say that, oh, it's just the status quo, oh, it is just the way it is, it's okay if, we don't control our own lives in the future. That's the whole point of why there's this big shadowing over this idea of being very tortured when it comes to the idea of evilness. If we name an evil person a narcissist, that makes more sense, right? But at the end of the day, if somebody is so devoid of emotion that they are harmful, what else would you call them? So the thing is that you need to learn from these instances. You need to learn from these situations, because that's how you can identify them. That's how you can get to know their next steps, their next moves. And that's even as a global situation, because we have to understand our enemy at times to know what their next moves will be. So please know, as I'm going to head off, I loved all of your questions or your chime-ins. I see that everyone here is super, super on the ball, and I love getting to know everyone. So if you have any questions about higher selves, I just wanted to talk about the aspects. I use my own just to give you guys some understanding of what it is like for me. Simply because I hope if you feel like you're interconnected with different beings. Oh, thanks, Kenner. That's awesome. Please chime in, because I can maybe help you out. And if anything, you can help me out. It's always a give and take. It's always an exchange of energy. That's what we need on this planet. Sometimes we don't have to look at money as just being money, because really money is time, right? But also time is energy. So if we can all energetically exchange different things for each other, I think that's a better way to be. But that's just me. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. This was all about aspects. Goodbye and stay classy. Bye. Uh...